Today, we honour the parents of the Blessed Virgin Mary and the grandparents of Jesus. While their names are not recorded in the Gospels, tradition identifies them as Joachim and Anne. This information comes from a mid-2nd century apocryphal document called the Gospel of James. Although this Gospel is considered inauthentic, it provides the earliest recorded names of the Blessed Mother's parents. Other apocryphal sources, such as the Gospel of the Nativity of Mary and the Gospel of Pseudo-Matthew, also mention Joachim and Anne, albeit with uncertain details. According to these traditions, Joachim was a wealthy and generous man, but he and Anne were childless until they were advanced in years. One day, before Anne conceived Mary, Joachim went to the temple to make an offering. His offering was rejected by a man named Reuben, likely a Levitical priest, because Joachim was childless, a sign seen as God's disfavour at that time. Distressed, Joachim left the temple and studied the scriptures, finding comfort in the story of Abraham, who was granted a child in his old age. Inspired, Joachim embarked on a 40-day period of fasting and prayer in the desert, seeking God's blessing for a child. Meanwhile, Anne also prayed fervently for a child. During her prayers, an angel appeared to her, saying, "Anne, Anne, the Lord has heard your prayer, and you shall conceive, and shall bring forth, and your seed shall be spoken of in all the world." An angel similarly appeared to Joachim, assuring him that Anne would conceive. 9 months later, Anne gave birth to a daughter, whom they named Mary. Fulfilling a vow, when Mary was 3 years old, Joachim and Anne brought her to the temple, where she lived and was educated by the priests and holy women until she was of marriageable age. Although the story of Mary's birth and presentation in the temple comes from apocryphal sources, the presentation of Mary in the temple is a liturgical feast, celebrated since the 6th century in the Eastern Church, and the 11th century in the Western Church. This indicates a long-standing tradition and acceptance of her presentation by her parents. In Jerusalem, an ancient church near the Temple Mount is believed to mark the birthplace and early residence of the Blessed Virgin Mary after her presentation. Devotion to Saints Joachim and Anne, particularly to Saint Anne, began to grow as early as the 6th century, with churches dedicated to her, prayers for her intercession, and various devotions. It wasn't until the 16th century that devotion to Saint Joachim became more widespread, with his feast day added to the general Roman calendar. Regardless of the authenticity of the legends, we know that the Blessed Virgin Mary, the Immaculate Conception, had parents who loved, raised, and offered her to God. Today, they are venerated as Saints Joachim and Anne, and many seek their intercession, especially grandparents. Just as Mary is seen as our spiritual mother, Saints Joachim and Anne can be regarded as our spiritual grandparents in the order of grace. Today, pray to this holy couple, particularly asking for their intercession for your grandparents or grandchildren. Reflect on what it would have been like to parent the mother of the Son of God. Imagine watching Mary, full of grace, grow and mature, aware that she was chosen by God and endowed with singular grace evident in her abundant virtue. Saints Joachim and Anne, pray for us.